Officers are being recommended for medals of valor tonight after an overnight shootout that left a convicted felon dead. Police officials say it could just as easily have been an officer who was killed. We get more from Steve Goodspeed.
It was shortly before 2 this morning when police officer Don Heitland, his dog in the back seat, followed another car into the parking lot of the Burger King near Hiawatha in East Lake Street. The man behind the wheel, Kerry Hoke, had allegedly been driving erratically, and Officer Heitland got out of his squad and called for Hoke to come over, which he did.
Came back toward the officer, and without any warning or comment, punched the officer, knocking him to his knees. During the struggle, the officer was kicked in the back of the head, and his gun was taken from him.
Lutz says that Hoke then stood over Heitland and threatened the officer with his own revolver. At that time, Lutz says another squad car pulled in, that Hoke then turned, aimed the revolver at the squad, and fired 3 times. The other officers then returned fire. Hoke died instantly of multiple gunshot wounds from Officers Bruce Peterson and Michael Sundstrom and Officer Heitland, who had scrambled to his squad and grabbed a shotgun when the other officers arrived. While Sundstrom and Peterson's squad was hit 3 times, neither officer was injured, but Heitland received stitches for a cut in his head. Lutz says he'll recommend that Peterson and Sundstrom receive the Medal of Valor.
I am convinced that it was the arrival of Officer Peterson and Officer Sundstrom that saved Officer Heitland's life.
Hoke's criminal record goes back at least 10 years in Minneapolis. He served time in Stillwater and was convicted or pleaded guilty to crimes ranging from illegal possession of a weapon to traffic violations and theft. 15 months ago, he served time in the workhouse for assaulting an officer. The shooting was the 4th time this year that Minneapolis police have shot and killed someone. It never happened last year. Deputy Chief Lutz says it's a sign of at least one thing, that the streets are getting more dangerous for police, both nationally and here at home. Steve Goodspeed, Channel 9 News, Minneapolis.
A 14-year-old boy remains in custody at a Houston County jail tonight, charged with murder and attempted murder after yesterday's shooting that killed his stepmother and seriously injured his father. 31-year-old Nancy Lesser was found shot to death in the couple's home, and her husband, 35-year-old Terry Lesser, remains in serious condition at a La Crosse hospital. Houston County Sheriff Dennis Swedberg says that a public defender has been assigned to defend the boy. Up until last year, the couple lived in the Twin Cities. Today, a fund in their name was set up at a local bank. If you'd like to make a donation, you can send it to the St. Anthony National Bank at 2401 Lowry Avenue Northeast, Minneapolis, 55418.
Well, after 4 days of rumors, Caspar Weinberger is finally cleaning out his desk. He resigned today as Defense Secretary. During a ceremony in the White House Rose Garden, President Reagan thanked his old friend for 7 years of service to his country and compared Weinberger to Churchill.
Courage, constancy, loyalty, together with uncommon brilliance, decisiveness, and determination. These are the qualities that Cap Weinberger has brought not only to the Defense Department, but to all the positions that he's held in service to our nation.
The president wasted no time in naming a replacement. It will be Frank Carlucci, former National Security Advisor. Carlucci had kind words for his old boss.
To me, he's been an inspirational supervisor, colleague, confidant, and friend. You may lose a subordinate today, and I may lose a colleague, but we keep a confidant and a friend. I will continue to look to Cap for advice and guidance.
Taking Carlucci's place at the helm of the National Security Council will be his deputy, Colin Powell, who will be the first black to hold that post. One of Weinberger's last official statements is sparking criticism from Moscow. After a meeting of NATO defense ministers, Weinberger said the U.S. would wait for Senate ratification before observing the pending medium-range missile ban treaty. A top Kremlin advisor says comments like that are spoiling the atmosphere on the eve of the December 7th Superpower Summit. Well, coming up next, a Delta airliner is forced back moments after leaving the Twin Cities.
Emergency crews also flooded the airport today, but for a different reason.
And if you're not too fond of trading your old car in or selling it through the newspaper, there is another way to get rid of it. These stories when we return.
At the November sale on Maytag at Montgomery Ward, you can clean up on dependable Maytag washers. Save $80. Heavy-duty Maytag dryers are also on sale. Save $90. Buy the pair and save $170. You'll find $100 savings on Maytag stacked washer dryer. You can even save on this Maytag dishwasher. It's $130 off. These savings will be gone before you know it.
Finally, something to do.
So don't miss the big savings at the November sale on Maytag at Montgomery Ward now.
Sir, there is too much food in this encore frozen entree.
Too much encore?
Yes, we couldn't possibly eat all of those heaping helpings of lasagna and veal parmesan.
Can't possibly. But encore's a 2-pound family-size entree.
We haven't got a family. No family.
Well, why not share your encore with some deserving family?
Whose?
Mine. It will be over at 5:30.
Excuse me, about these large encore servings.
Be over tomorrow night, ma'am, 6:30.
When you want more, it's encore.
Most health plans talk about choice, but when you go to their clinic, your choices quietly slip away. You may be losing the right to choose your own doctor, to change doctors anytime, to see a specialist without a referral. Only one health plan is working to preserve these freedoms for you, PHP. And if you don't have the freedom to choose, what do you have?
Ever since your post office invented express mail overnight delivery, others have tried to copy our eagle, but it's not so easy. You see, express mail overnight reliability is close to perfect, with the most convenient locations and prices as low as $10.75. About half what most others charge, so we're pretty hard to imitate. So use the original express mail service from your post office.
A Delta Airlines jet was forced to return to the Twin Cities International Airport this morning. Shortly after takeoff, one passenger said there was a big explosion on the left wing about a minute into the flight. Delta says a compressor went out and that made a loud noise, but the airline says that didn't constitute an emergency landing. Emergency crews rushed to the Twin Cities International Airport today as bodies of crash victims laid about in a nearby field. If it sounds like a disaster, well, it is supposed to. It was an emergency response exercise set up by the airport to practice emergency measures in case of a real disaster. The drill had 55 live volunteers acting as crash victims and about 200 emergency crew people from area hospitals, ambulance services, and medical teams. Officials sponsoring the drill said it went well today, but there is still room for improvement. The airport says it will conduct similar exercises about every 18 months. Well, the labor problems continue at Northwest Airlines.
Talks have broken off again between Northwest and its 20,000-member mechanics union, and both sides say negotiations are at an impasse. The union says Northwest is trying to force a confrontation with former Republic mechanics that could lead to a strike. But the carrier, calling the session a real disappointment, says it's merely trying to make headway in the talks. The one concern appears to be that any settlement is a long way off. Striking Northwest workers in South Korea have now begun a hunger protest against the airline. They also say they'll stage a sit-in protest at a number of Northwest offices around Seoul. More than 130 workers walked off the job last month after the transfer of what the union called 13 key union people.
A St. Louis Park man, famous for the 7-story treehouse he built, is trying now to stay out of jail. Today, Mark Tucker was supposed to begin serving a 10-day jail sentence for failing to make repairs on rental properties that he owns in Minneapolis. A Hennepin County judge has agreed to reconsider the case tomorrow at a hearing. Tucker checked up on some of his property today. He says he's being treated unfairly by housing inspectors. At his hearing tomorrow, he plans to present some satisfied tenants. Last month, he was found guilty of housing code violations and sentenced to 90 days in jail, with 80 days of that sentence stayed.
South Africa today released a former leader of the outlawed African National Congress. Govan Mbeki has spent more than 20 years in prison. He was one of 7 black leaders sentenced to life in prison, along with Nelson Mandela. No one is saying why Mbeki was freed, but some analysts think the government did not want him to die in jail. He is 77 years old.
After telling a judge there's no one more remorseful in this world than I am, Congressman Mario Biaggi was sentenced to 2.5 years in prison and fined $500,000 today. Biaggi, however, remains free while he appeals. The New York Democrat was convicted of illegally accepting free vacations from a political ally. Today, Biaggi said that he is down, but he also said he's not out.
I haven't fallen. I've been smitten. but I haven't fallen. And the fact of the matter is, I don't believe in my own heart that I did anything wrong. I received an act of generosity, an act of hospitality from Meade Esposito, a friend of some 20 to 25 years.
Protecting and serving the public isn't as easy of a job as one might think. That according to one St. Paul police officer.
He has just finished a 115-page study on the hazards of the job, and as Fritzy Borgert reports, many of them are psychological.
Come here.
Here, Em. Drop it, Ram.
Drop.
The other night, Dennis Conroy helped search for a gun at the scene of an assault. He doesn't wear a uniform on his day off. You wouldn't even know he's a cop, unless you made him talk about it.
Man with gun calls where you don't know where the person is, certainly or what their intent. Those kind of calls are all pretty scary. At least I find them scary.
But fear isn't the worst thing officers have to deal with, according to Dennis. After several years of police work, they quietly watch their idealism turn to frustration.
I remember arresting a pimp, and when I was seeing the results of some of the extreme brutality that he'd inflicted upon a couple of teenage girls, and watching the mess through the court system, and the intimidation that the girls went through from other pimps, and they were real courageous, I think, in testifying, but there was only a 6-month sentence.
Dennis has just finished his doctoral dissertation on police work. After interviewing 25 cops, he found that most, at some point in their careers, traded their emotions in on a blank face.
They're exposed to a lot of things that they've never seen before, and it's replaced with a real negative view, a cynical view, and at that point, I think the officers are experiencing a lot of pain, and rather than experience the pain, they shut it down.
Dennis tries to spend as much time with his kids as he can. He teaches. He also counsels the parents of teenage prostitutes. He works with wood, and he has his doctorate. A doctorate that says cops are under stress these days, and they need to learn to do something about it.
There's AA groups that are comprised of just police officers. And I think that one of the biggest things they can do is let the new officers know that this is likely to happen and it's okay. And it's something you'll get through.
Dennis will make his study available to police chiefs all over the country, including those here in the Twin Cities, to help them cope with what has been called officer burnout. Fritzy Borgwart, Channel 9 News, Ramsey County.
The system works. I would say it's a good method to market a used car.
Here's big news. Levitt's has reduced prices store-wide during their big pre-holiday sale going on now.
You'll love it at Levitt.
If your family craves meat, give them new Buddig lean slices at feeding time. There's honey-smoked, lower salt, and original Cure ham, all 98% fat-free, and naturally lean or smoked turkey breast. They make a mighty meaty sandwich.
How about lunch, Guy?
New Buddig lean slices for people who are wild about meat.
Imagine a place you could go to find help with your investment opportunities, retirement planning, insurance, credit lines, and mortgages. A place with more services than you'd expect from a bank and more help than you'd expect from a banker. It may be the last place you'd look, but it's the place you should come in first.
Bert Ribnick knows that seeing is believing.
Excuse me?
That's right. He wants you to see that you can afford a new fur coat at Ribnick's. That's where you'll find the lowest prices on the largest selection of quality new furs in the Twin Cities. With this unbeatable selection of styles to choose from, plus prices at from 30 to 50% below retail, Ribnick's has to be seen to be believed.
We believe it.
More selection for less at Ribnick Furs. You've got to see it to believe it.
Budget Power, the home improvement expert, lets you do it yourself and save during the Decorama sale. Create a fresh style in your bath with Shower Right tub and shower doors. All exciting designs from nostalgic cameo pattern to bold horizontal stripes are on sale. Doors include 9-color accent strips for changing your decorative whims. Save now on Air Care's entire collection of uniquely styled bath fans. Air Care features whisper-quiet ventilation, convenient lighting, and warm, flowing heat. Save more at Budget Power, the home improvement expert.
Several of the nation's largest banks, including the three biggest in the Twin Cities, have slashed their prime lending rates 0.25% to 8.75%, down from 9%. The move comes amid mounting pressure for lower rates in the aftermath of last month's stock market crash. The prime is the benchmark used by banks to set interest rates on a variety of corporate and consumer loans. Encouraged by declining interest rates, the stock market staged a rally today. The Dow Jones picked up 40 points, while advancing issues led decliners 3-1. The closing price there, 1985, volume was heavy at 226 million shares. Also tonight in business, the Nordstrom department store was apparently caught off guard by yesterday's vote of the Minneapolis City Council refusing to allow a dome over part of Nicollet Mall. Nordstrom was to become an anchor tenant for a development proposed for Nicollet Mall between 9th and 11th Streets, but said they will now reconsider if the dome is excluded. The City Council opposed the idea of enclosing any part of the mall. Dayton-Hudson Corporation said today it expects to report a drop in third-quarter earnings. Although they would not give a specific estimate, spokesman used the term substantially below last year's earnings. CEO Kenneth Mackey cited highly promotional sales activity as the reason for the decline. On the New York Stock Exchange, Cap Cities ABC, Merck, and IBM finished up. Gold was shot today. Newmont Gold, Homestake Mining, and Atlantic Richfield closed down. On the regional board, Cray, CVN, and Lee Data finished up. Finishing down were Valspar, Jostens, and Dayton-Hudson on that bad news of their third-quarter earnings. Well, if you have ever tried to sell your own used car, you know it can be both expensive and time-consuming. So here's an idea, perhaps, whose time has come. Pay an auto dealer a commission to sell it while you keep the profits.
These people are shopping for a used car, but the one they are looking at may not be owned by the dealer whose lot it is on. Some of these cars have been brought in by private owners who did not trade it in for one of the dealer's new cars. They just want him to sell it for them. It is a concept called auto realty. For a fee of $35, the dealer agrees to sell the car for the price you want. He takes a minimum $400 commission, but he'll mark up the car so that he gets the price you want. Some frustrated car sellers have found it a quick and easy way to find a buyer. This man, for example, wanted $7,700 for a 1985 Fiero he brought in. 3.5 weeks later, he had it.
The biggest advantage was just to be able to get out of the car business, which I'm not in, so I didn't have to worry about running my ads Saturday and Sunday and being home sitting around the phone waiting for people to call.
Auto Realty is a national franchise that is now in about half of the United States. The dealer pays $10,000 for the franchise plus a $500 monthly fee. In the Twin Cities, 5 dealers have an Auto Realty franchise. Dealers admit they don't stand to make a lot of money selling your used car, but they see one big advantage for them.
The type car that we would like to have on our lot that we know we can sell fast is a car that we can't always procure, that we can't always have, you know, in our inventory. It's something you can't get it on trade. You can't go buy it anywhere.
That way, they get more people on their lots, their salesmen have more cars to sell, and the dealer does get a little out of it.
And they can also work some more deals because, of course, they can take trade-ins if you come in with an older car, Rod, and they arrange the financing and so forth. So there do seem to be some advantages for the consumer out there.
Like you said, it takes a lot of the hassle.
It really does.
Selling the car. Well, if you'd like the weather out there today, well, you're going to just love tomorrow.
I am, huh? Well, Joe Dandry is next with the forecast. Stay with us.
Heat your home with Bryant's Efficient Formula Gas Furnace and get 1 month of free gas. Or heat your home with the Ultra Efficient Plus 90 Furnace and get 2 months of free gas. Formula and Plus 90 from Bryant. Up to 97% efficient and fired up with free gas.
In Northfield, call J&B Sheet Metal, and in the East St. Paul suburbs, call Oakland Heating and Air Conditioning.
Autumn Festival, Mid-America's biggest and most beautiful arts and crafts show comes to Canterbury Downs this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. 2 giant indoor levels filled with over 300 artists and craftsmen from 18 states to thrill and amaze you with their talents and skills. Browse or buy, enjoy continuous entertainment and delicious ethnic foods. Gift certificates given away every hour. Discount tickets at all area Pizza Huts. 31 big hours of fabulous exhibits and entertainment. It's Mid-America's biggest and best arts and crafts show. Autumn Festival, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, Canterbury Downs. Don't miss it.
Mean Gene here. If you're looking for a great used car or truck, Thane Hawkins Fuller Chevrolet and Mazda is the place to buy.
We've just made a special factory purchase of 50 87 Chevrolet front-wheel drive low-mileage cars, all fully equipped with automatic, air, factory warranty, and more. Sale price from $69.90 or just $139 a month.
Low prices, huge inventory, low money down at Thane Hawkins Fuller Chevrolet and Mazda, Highway 61 in White Bear Lake, where financing is as easy as the stamp of approval.
Christmas is for surprises. If you're looking for surprising money-saving ideas for Christmas, just look at Hardware Hank's gifts on Parade Circular. You'll see motorized power Tonka trucks with flashing lights, Hasbro Visionaries battle figures, and a 9-piece wrench set from Great Neck. And that's just the start, because Hank has a lot more surprises.
So we're going to have some more of the same tomorrow?
Did you like it?
Well, yes. It was pretty.
November sunshine is a rare thing around here, so you might as well soak up as much as you can. It does look like we got some nice days coming up. Probably more importantly to a lot of folks, the opening of the Minnesota deer hunting season is coming up this weekend.
Oh, that's right.
And I think a lot of people are wondering what Saturday is going to be like. So we're going to take a look at what at least our first guess is for Saturday, and right now it's not looking bad at all. A few clouds are moving into the northwestern part of Minnesota up toward Roseau and Thief River Falls, also in the southwestern part of the state down around Worthington. But looks like the bulk of the state should enjoy plenty of sunshine, and winds won't be much of a factor either, only east at about 5 to 10 miles an hour. As far as temperatures go, it will be cool, especially up in the north country, and early in the morning expect temperatures in the teens up toward Big Falls and Hibbing, and about 23 for the lows toward St. Cloud and Brainerd, maxing out around 48 in the central part of the state, and up to about 52 for afternoon temperatures in southern Minnesota. So all in all, the weather doesn't look like it'll be bad at all for the deer hunting opener coming up this Saturday. Checking out our weather today, of course, that wasn't bad either with lots of sunshine. Our temperature made it up right about where it should be this time of the year. 47 degrees. Our morning low is 30, again close to the average of 28. Records are 70 and 3. And sunrise is 6:58 tomorrow morning. Cloudy skies right now. Our temperature holding at 41 because of the clouds. The dew point is very low, though, at 20 degrees. So relative humidity 43%. A west breeze at 5, and the pressure strong and rising. It is cooling off rapidly up in northern Minnesota, where there's, the skies are a little bit clearer. 25 degrees, International Falls, 30 up at Duluth, 33 at Eau Claire. As you head south, temperatures still a little bit warmer with 48 at Des Moines and 47 reported down at Atumwa, southeastern Iowa. Some 30s out to the west, but generally 30s and low 40s hanging on across the region. Now, we do have a little sheet of clouds which developed in the Dakotas today moving through Minnesota, but it's moving through on a very fast very fast winds aloft, and it looks like the leading edge or the trailing edge of these clouds should be out of the Twin Cities by around 2 or 3 a.m. If that happens, we'll have about 4 hours for cooling down rapidly, so temperatures should be able to fall down to the 20s across most of the region a little bit later on tonight. Here's that area of high pressure that was moving through us, giving us the light winds and the beautiful day today. It's now slipping to the south of us. We should still be underneath a ridge of high pressure tomorrow, so that will mean light winds and some more sunshine shaping up. Nationally, though, we're keeping our eyes peeled on a storm out to the south and west, and it's really roughing up the southwest again. Las Vegas, Nevada had some severe thunderstorms this morning. 68-mile-an-hour winds, 3/4-inch hail, flooded streets down there once again, and it left about 2 to 2.5 inches of rain in some of the mountains of Southern California, with some local flooding reported at San Diego. This whole thing is slowly churning into the Rockies now. Right now, it looks like it's going to be moving south of us this weekend. We'll keep our fingers crossed, but we'll just have to keep an eye on it. There is still that slight chance it could recurve north, especially affecting extreme southern Minnesota sometime this weekend. Radars around the country show not a lot going on. Still some heavy showers down in the southern part of Florida, some scattered snow showers moving through the eastern part of the Great Lakes, and there is that rain across the deserts of the southwest, where they're just not used to that this time of the year. Highs cooling off. Remember, about 3 dozen records yesterday across the east. Well, you can see that push of cold air now. And the thing we want to notice here is that the push of that cold air is east of Minnesota, moving into the Great Lakes and into the northeast, so it's already out of here. We should have fairly mild temperatures for the next couple of days. The weather map for tomorrow then showing a high-pressure ridge stretching from Manitoba right on down into the southeastern states, and since we'll be underneath that ridge, we should enjoy light winds and plenty of sunshine. But where that storm will be swirling, there will be showers of rain and snow in the Rockies, and even some thunderstorms are breaking out for western Texas. Those clouds over us now will be moving east into eastern Wisconsin. Still a few snow showers in the eastern Great Lakes, but all in all, weather's shaping up pretty nice around here. Our forecast is calling for partly cloudy skies. A little bit later on tonight, lows dipping into the middle to upper 20s. Winds will be light out of the south later on. For tomorrow, sunny and warmer, high temperatures of 48 to 53, and again, variable winds at 5 to 12 will make it even feel warmer than that. For tomorrow night, clear and cool, 25 to 30, and Saturday, sunny and pleasant, highs of 48 to 53. We'll try and keep that big southwestern storm away this weekend.
So November is generally cloudy, so this is one of the exceptions.
That's right. But generally a moist, cloudy, kind of foggy month, so maybe we can hang on to this weather a few days.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Well, about 1,000 homes in Minnesota will be tested for radon over the next few months. Radon, as you might have heard, is a radioactive gas that seeps up from the ground and can cause cancer. The homes will be tested as part of a study by the Minnesota Health Department. Small packets of charcoal to detect the gas will be placed in randomly selected homes around the state. The federal EPA says about 15% of the 136,000 lung cancer deaths a year are caused by radon in homes. On our Missing Children report, parentally abducted children represent about 80% of those seen on KMSP and the Missing Children Network. If you know of such a situation, call the network hotline. Now with tonight's children.
Missing from Greeley, Colorado since February 24th of this year is Coleman Wilkerson. He's believed to be in the company of his non-custodial mother. 4.5-year-old Coleman has light brown hair, brown eyes, and large dimples. Jennifer Martellez has been missing from Tampa, Florida since November 15th, 1982. She disappeared while walking home from school. Now 12 years old, Jennifer has black hair, brown eyes, and pierced ears. It is alleged that Kristen Sherwood's non-custodial father did not return him after visitation, June 19th, 1981. Warrants have been issued for his arrest. Now 7 years old, Kristen has blonde hair and blue eyes. He is missing from Naples, Florida. Call the Missing Children Network if you have information about Kristen, Jennifer, or Coleman. Call 1-800-235-3535. Pictures of these and other missing children can be found at your local country club food markets.
University of Minnesota officials have begun disciplinary proceedings against a group of its own students. The Progressive Student Organization is charged with several violations of the university's conduct code stemming from on-campus protests during the last 18 months. Complaints concern students' unauthorized use of sound equipment and padlocking doors to a university building. PSO members say they're being unfairly singled out.
8 post-hearing arrests against PSO members, none against other organizations. Sound violations, you know, the hearings against us, again directed at us, and also student conduct code charges against students 3 students who were in a group of about 300 students.
The university presented its case yesterday. Students will do the same next week. PSO has filed a lawsuit against the U of M, alleging harassment. There's much more to come tonight on Primetime News. The growing U.S. dependence on foreign oil is reaching crisis proportions.
Also tonight, a U.S. funding bill supplying aid to the Contras passes the House, and the deadline for a Central American peace plan is almost passed, but hopes for peace are still alive. These stories and more are next. Stay with us.
Gary Zimmerman and Keith Millard are this year's Viking candidates for the Miller Lite Lineman of the Year. Pick your favorite Sunday, November 8th at the Dome or wherever Miller Lite is sold.
It's a known fact that dirty carburetor wastes gas. Let me show you the easy way to clean your carburetor with JB Carburetor Cleaner. Printed on the back of this can are 3 simple steps, and it takes less than 10 minutes to do the job. JB Carburetor Cleaner cuts through the carbon, gum, and varnish that ruins your car's gas mileage. Buy a can of JB Carburetor Cleaner wherever automotive products are sold. Tell him Ed Justice sent you.
Many people need to cut down on salt for better health.
Instead of salt, use great-tasting Mrs. Dash with 14 natural herbs and spices. Use Mrs. Dash on every dish for zesty, savory flavor. For better health, instead of salt, try Mrs. Dash.
The new Remington Microscreen Ultimate with the exclusive beard lifter stretches the skin and lifts whiskers other shavers leave behind. The new Remington Microscreen Ultimate shaves as close as a blade and closer than any other electric shaver or your money back.
In recent years, most innovations in frozen pizza have come in the area of crust. Thicker crusts, thinner crusts, lighter crusts, crustier crusts. Double-top pizza from Tombstone puts the crust where it belongs, on the bottom of the top. And our crusts are doing double duty, because double top doubles the toppings. Double the meat, double the cheese, double the taste. Double-top pizza from Tombstone. You'll think twice before you buy anything else.
The clothes shaver from Windveer. For years, those little pills and fuzz meant the end of a favorite sweater. Not anymore. It works wonders on dress shirts around the neck and collar. The clipping action of the rotating blades gently removes the pills and fuzz from almost everything. The clothes shaver brings your favorite old clothes back to life and out of your closet. The clothes shaver. It saves your clothes and money, too. Available at Best Products.
Saying it was a mistake and I regret it, Supreme Court nominee Douglas Ginsburg admitted today that he used marijuana once in the 1960s and a few times in the 70s. In a statement, the judge said that marijuana was the only drug he ever used, and he hasn't used it since. President Reagan and Attorney General Meese immediately declared continued support for Ginsburg, who was nominated to the U.S. Supreme Court last week.
After nearly 2 weeks of work, negotiators wrangling over ways to cut the federal deficit finally sounded optimistic today. Oregon's Bob Packwood, the senior Republican on the Senate Finance Committee, reported significant progress in those talks, and White House Chief of Staff Howard Baker says he is still hopeful. Despite the progress, the man heading up the negotiations warned against setting any date for the agreement. Not all the talk was rosy, however. House Speaker Jim Wright today accused the administration of standing in the way of progress. Well, it could be that Americans might not appreciate any plan the deficit negotiators are coming up with. According to the Los Angeles Times poll, 2/3 of the people surveyed feel the deficit is a big problem, but 64% do not want taxes raised to reduce it. Only 32% want to cut military spending, and even fewer, 23%, favor slashing domestic spending.
The congressional report on the Iran-Contra affair was voted final approval today, but not without some dissent. A spokesman for the Senate committee says that the document will be released around the middle of this month. Some Senate Republicans are expected to issue a report of their own at the same time. They claim the majority study contains innuendos and unsupported conclusions. The chair of the House committee says the report will contain a lot of detail, but few surprises. A temporary
I feel like we have a very good understanding of these events, and that will be set out in the report. Now, our investigation is part of an ongoing process. We didn't begin it, and we don't conclude it.
A temporary funding bill for the U.S. government, including over $3 million in Contra aid, is passed in the House. Opponents of the aid had backed off a fight to keep CIA hands off humanitarian aid to the Nicaraguan rebels. They feared that a defeat would now send the wrong signal on this targeted date for implementing a Central American peace agreement.
And while that target date was today, bringing peace to that troubled region has been a difficult process. Originally, all 5 of the countries that signed the peace plan were to have declared ceasefires, granted amnesty to political prisoners, and made democratic reforms by today. But Nicaragua, Guatemala, and El Salvador have moved so slowly that the countries are ready to settle for just signs of progress. And Iran's prime minister has dampened hopes for United Nations peace efforts in the Persian Gulf. Iran's official media quotes the leader as saying he sees no way the UN can do anything about the 7-year-old Iran-Iraq war. He also says Iran must continue mobilizing against the U.S. The unstable conditions in the Persian Gulf have made another oil catastrophe here in the United States a real possibility. In 1985, our oil prices had declined to about 30%, but today that has grown to more than 40%, about the same level as before the oil embargo in 1973. And predictions are the majority of our oil will be imported by 1990.
And we're talking tonight with Mr. Charles Ebinger, who is a senior fellow at the Center for Strategic and International Studies in Washington, D.C., about American energy policies and our energy policies as they concern the troubled Persian Gulf. And Mr. Ebinger, the U.S. energy policy, you've been critical of the way the Reagan administration has handled it in recent years. Why?
Well, I think under President Reagan's tutelage, we've undone the successes of the previous 3 administrations because President Reagan has believed the free market would take care of everything. The problem is, under the free market, the cheapest form of energy is oil imports from the Persian Gulf, and they have accelerated 1.5 million barrels a day just in the last 18 months. and are likely to continue that trend during the remainder of this administration and into the future.
Now, our increased dependence then on foreign oil, especially from the Middle East, has that forced our hand in the Persian Gulf? Has that driven American naval vessels to escort Kuwaiti oil vessels out of the Gulf?
It clearly is a major ingredient of that. We obviously have the broader strategic interests to contain the Soviet Union from gaining a warm water port in that part of the world on the Indian Ocean. But clearly the perception that oil imports are rising again, those imports are increasingly coming from the Persian Gulf, and that trend will accelerate to nearly a doubling of our imports in the next 7 to 10 years is a vital ingredient of our actions out there.
And Americans don't remember back very far if they forget the oil embargo of 73 and 79.
They certainly don't, or the price shock that we had in 79 and 80 when the Shah of Iran was toppled.
What about OPEC? Are they setting us up for a fall by cheap oil prices right now? Are they looking down the road saying that we're going to regain these markets and then we're going to increase the price?
OPEC is setting us up, I think. To be fair, they've lost market share. They made mistakes when they raised the price too far, too fast. We developed alternative sources of power in the nuclear area, the coal area, conservation, and they realized that they have to lower the price to regain those markets. If we allow that to happen and don't continue to develop a whole host of alternative fuels, we're going to see those imports go up. We're going to see our oil import bill go up, and Wall Street has clearly sent the message the last several weeks that if we don't do something about our trade deficit, the international financial community isn't going to finance it, and this is going to throw us into a real recession. So we've got to get on with the job and have an effective domestic policy here at home.
So briefly, how do we do that? How do we stave off another oil crisis?
We do it by continuing to develop alternative electricity fuels in the coal and nuclear area, push conservation much harder than we do, and develop alternative transportation fuels.
All right. Mr. Ebinger, thank you very much. Now back to Heather.
Thanks, Rod. We'll be back right after this.
Stage is really an extension of what we do off stage. You may do it bigger, but that's because there's more people. America's out there, but everybody's in their living room, so we're trying to keep it nice and calm. Put the newspaper down, Martha.
At MedCenter's Health Plan, we cover you for routine physicals. We cover you for visits to the doctor's office. We cover you for hospital stays and much, much more. While some other plans, maybe even your plan, try to get by with much, much less. MedCenter's Health Plan. Your coverage better be this good.
You know something, Weezy? We were meant for each other. Oh, thank you, George. New York and me. And God made George, he broke the mold. He didn't want to make the same mistake twice.
That is some tuxedo.
Thank you, Florence.
Now, this really you, Mr. Jefferson.
Thank you.
It's loud.
Thursday night at 10 on Channel 9.
Took a whole lot of trouble.
Won the World Series. What are you going to do next? We're going to Disney World.
The two came from out of the West. One was big and lean, the top sirloin from Cattle Company. The other was tasteful, Italian, shrimp scampi. And now they're coming together to form one legendary dinner with a baked potato and a fresh garden salad. All for just $8.95. Top sirloin and shrimp scampi. Our Italian Western combination. Only at Cattle Company.
It's been called one of the most important influences in the lives of today's young people. It's caused kids to quit school, leave home. Some say it's even led kids to commit suicide.
It is heavy metal music, rock and roll characterized by loud guitars and violent lyrics.
These days, heavy metal is more popular than it has ever been in its 20-year history, especially here in the Twin Cities. Tonight, in a special report, Between Rock and a Hard Place, Kevin Burns looks at the popularity of heavy metal music and local efforts to get rid of it.
Los Angeles, California. The heavy metal group KISS advertises for 500 extras to film a music video. 7,000 people turn out. Minneapolis, Minnesota. Hundreds of young people line up outside the site of a heavy metal concert, hours before the sold-out shows scheduled to begin.
Rock and roll has always been a music of rebellion, and heavy metal even more so. So that's the last outpost of rebellion in rock and roll.
Heavy metal got its start almost 2 decades ago with groups like Kiss, Black Sabbath, and Led Zeppelin. Although millions of albums were sold, one thing was lacking: radio airplay. But within the last year, that's changed.
And particularly MTV, because MTV at the moment is trying to find new audience and bolster their ratings. And so they're offering something that nobody else is, and they're attracting that young male audience, which is very important.
But heavy metal's got something more going for it. These days, the average teenager listens to 6.5 hours of rock and roll each day. Numbers like that are music to the ears of radio station owners. This is Hot Rockin' 104 FM in the Twin Cities. Its format is heavy metal. Its success is just short of phenomenal. Until last February, 104 played oldies. Its winter Arbitron rating was 2.7. Then management switched formats. Its spring Arbitron skyrocketed to 6.2.
Well, what every other station in town has done is taken a group of audience in the past years, and maybe over the last 10, 15, 20 years, and they've grown up with an audience. And we've decided that why should we be the follower and play all the good classic rock music when we're taking a younger demographic and we're going to grow up with that demographic.
But as the popularity of heavy metal music increases, so do the efforts of its critics.
But I pray that they would just be open to hearing the other side of rock and roll music.
Dan and Steve Peters are brothers. They are also ministers at the Zion Christian Center in North St. Paul. For the last 8 years, the Peters brothers have led a national effort to get rock musicians to clean up their acts and their music.
Virgin Killer? Who would have the audacity to put out an album, call it Virgin Killer, about somebody else's teenage daughter?
During the Peters 2-hour seminars, heavy metal artists are targeted for their use of sex, violence, and profanity in their music.
Preaching, yes, folks, we preach, but what we're preaching is having a good time. And since everybody has to work during the day or go to school, nights are a good excuse to do what you want, and then you can blame it on the night in the morning. If you hate yourself in the morning, sleep late.
But the Peters take themselves and their ministry very seriously. They've held seminars in 46 states, appeared on national television, and testified before Congress.
They go, see you in hell, my friend, see you in hell, my friend, see you in hell, my friend, I'll see you in hell. What could they be singing about there?
You know what I think about most? What my daughter's going to think of the lyrics. So that kind of keeps everything in perspective. You know, I usually don't use words like 4-letter words in songs.
Words like?
Because, you know, inevitably I'm going to be riding in my car. I'm going to have to pop the tape in it with my daughter sitting next to me, and she's going to say, well, Daddy, why'd you use that word? That's a bad word.
Lord, they're destroying these albums because they no longer have value. They just want to.
In some cases, efforts by the Peters brothers, including their highly publicized record burnings, have caught the attention of record labels and their artists. Satanic images, once prolific in heavy metal lyrics and videos, are now considered passé. Parents groups are pushing to have rock records rated, much like movies are. And rock stars themselves are being questioned more and more about their status as role models.
What's the difference between Ozzy Osbourne and Jerry Falwell? Everyone has to have a follower. I had a follower, which was the Beatles. I'm just having a good time. I'm not pretending to be anything that I'm not. I'm not going to tell people that I'm going to, you know, take them to the Golden Gates. I'm Ozzy.
Osbourne is one of several heavy metal acts criticized for offering suicide as a solution to the problems faced by young people. You might say 15-year-old Steve Boucher of Big Lake, Minnesota, was a victim of heavy metal music. In March of 1981, Steve went into his room, closed the door, and did what his favorite heavy metal group told him to: put a gun to his head and pull the trigger.
You know, they've got all the pressure at school,
They've got drugs thrust upon them. They've got the pressures from home, peer pressure. And then the music that they listen to offers no hope. There's nothing positive about it. And what do you do when you listen to your hero, the ones that you hero worship, telling you that you should put a gun to your head? You know, it becomes acceptable.
But musicians and their record companies argue all they're offering is escapism, a chance for kids to fantasize. Radio stations and their advertisers argue all they're offering is what the kids ask for. As for the future of heavy metal music,
we've got a number of their songs listed in some of our books, the garbage they're into.
That may be purely a question of supply and demand. I'm Kevin Burns, Channel 9 News.
Oh, what is it, Sergeant? Smoke signal?
No, Captain. Smoked beef, turkey, probably bratwurst.
Where?
There, Cub Foods.
You mean there's a smokehouse right in the store?
Take a look. That's why they taste so darn good.
The Smokehouse at Cub Foods, right in the deli, where everything from Italian sausage to bratwurst is smoked daily.
What are your orders, Captain?
Half a pound of turkey, half a dozen brat.
Cub Foods, it's a new way to run a supermarket.
Now, Toro guarantees that its CCR 2000 snow thrower will start by the second pull for 2 years, or Toro will fix it free, even in the coldest weather. Now, at Lindale Hardware and Lehman's Toro store, you'll get the best selection and after-sale service. If you buy now during Toro's pre-season sale, you'll receive 90-day free financing for qualified buyers. Try the guaranteed to start CCR 2000 today at Lindale Hardware and Lehman's Toro store.
Well, a lot of tournament activity already getting underway in high school sports, and now in soccer, the finals have been set. The
yeah,
teams
a lot
lined
of
up.
heavy kicking going on today, that's for sure. The whittling process continuing in the state high school soccer tournament. 70 girls teams competed this year, 84 boys teams. Tonight, only 4 are left with a shot to win a Minnesota State championship. No, not a sight from Halloween, but a full moon providing the setting for the semifinal play. Cool temperatures, too, as the action heated up with semifinals. This match featuring Wayzata in the blue against Stillwater. Watch this drive. Nice rush upfield by Mike Moline, the senior forward for the Trojans. Drops it off to the teammate. He is stopped, though, on the shot. Stillwater had chances of its own in the first half. The free kick here just misses over the crossbar, and it was critical, too, because Wayzata scored and held on to beat Stillwater 1-0. St. Paul Academy, the defending champion for the boys, won its semifinal match as well. Tonight, winners for the girls, North St. Paul and Coon Rapids. So the finals are set. They will be for both girls and boys next Tuesday night, 6 o'clock. It all starts at the Metrodome. Football, Vikings head coach Jerry Burns has some key decisions to make before Sunday's game against the Raiders at the Metrodome. The biggest, who should start at quarterback? Wade Wilson, who's gone most of the year, or Tommy Kramer, coming off an injury and out of treatment. We might not know until Saturday. The Raiders having quarterback questions of their own, but that's nothing new. This year they have 4. It's a situation common to that team, even in the best of times.
I can remember winning the Super Bowl in Tampa in 1983, and after the game, the post-game interviews, somebody asked who's going to be your starting quarterback next year.
But most of this year, Rusty Hilger has started over Mark Wilson and Jim Plunkett. Vince Evans was the replacement quarterback, so it's quite a quarterback roulette for everybody.
The spark wasn't there. California.